also. Why do people think of them as people who want to get the population down to 500 million worldwide from 6 billion? They want to take over wars. They're involved in terrorism. They have their own agenda. Why do people believe that about these people?
Well, they certainly have their own agenda, and their agenda is quite often at great odds to a lot
humanity,
of people.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a nationalist, then you're no friend of the Bilderbergers. There's no question about that. If you don't believe in globalization or one world government, the Bilderbergers are out to turn you into a twig in the tidal wave. If you believe that politics should be ideological and not run by business, then you are an enemy of the Bilderbergers. Now, this other stuff like population control, I know people have said that about Bilderberg. And I have no idea whether it's true. I've got no idea whether.
No information on that, really.
Yeah, I mean, I was sent the minutes of the Bilderberg meeting that I was chased away from, and it was kind of boring. The minutes, I hate to say, it was all it was a globalist think tank. They've denied existing from time to time. They're very secretive.
Do you find them to be dangerous people, John?
Well, I was, when they were chasing me around Portugal, I was pretty freaked out.
Absolutely, sure.
I was scared then. I wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of them, but I don't believe that.
Well, let me rephrase it. Do you think they have the betterment of mankind in mind?
I think that's in the eye of the beholder. I mean, do you think it's a good idea to take power away from politicians and put it into the hands of the head of Nokia and Heinz and SmithKline Beecham?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, I don't even think it's wise to give the politicians power. I think the people should have it.
Well, the people don't have power, right? I mean, we just don't.
We don't. We think we do, but we don't.
Yeah, we really, really don't. I mean, that really is, life, sadly. I mean, you only have to look at, the Iraqi war to see that there wasn't much we could do about that.
Do you think, though, that this organization, the one that you were part of and witnessed, that they're the ones that steer everything on this planet?
No, I don't. I think that members of the organization are, very, very powerful people. And they certainly think, this is the way things are done. This is life. This is the way, we do things. David Rockefeller would think there is absolutely nothing wrong with talent spotting an up-and-coming president and offering him sensible words in the corridor at a Bilderberg meeting, because he would say that's not a conspiracy, that's the way things are done, that's life. So, I mean, and he is, people like that are certainly self-appointed rulers of the world.
Do they build people? Do they build presidents?
Well, bringing Margaret Thatcher over to the States and driving her around in limousines and introducing her to all the important
before she became the prime minister.
Yeah, before she became the prime minister. Is that building them? I suppose it is. in a way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do we know if Bill Clinton ever?
Yeah, I believe Bill Clinton attended Bilderberg in I can't remember exactly when, but I believe Clinton did.
Before he was president. Before he was president. Yeah. And Blair before he was prime minister?
Yeah. I said to Martin Taylor, the head of the Bilderberg group, you're really good at spotting these people. And he said, thank you.
Sounds like they make them, John.
Well, that's the debate, right? They would say that they don't, but maybe they don't realize, because that's the way they live their lives day after day after day, that they do pull the strings. Maybe they do pull the strings without consciously seeing themselves as a cabal.
I think
you
they
see
know.
What I mean?
I think they know. I think they're fully aware of their power and influence.
I try and, I really, especially when you're dealing with this kind of stuff, Bilderberg, Bohemian Grove, the men who stare at goats, these weird paranormal activities in the military. I mean, this is really kind of hairy stuff that I write about and get myself into the middle of. And to keep my own sanity, I really try and work out in a pretty central, sort of moderate way what this is all about. I try and see the story from everyone's perspective, from the perspective of their enemies, of conspiracy theorists, from the perspective of kind of secular liberals like me, and from the perspective of the people involved in these weird events, major generals and so on. I try and just sort of take the facts and work out what is the most rational explanation.
You have a fellow Brit out there by the name of David Icke. He's been on our program several times, John.
Yeah, David's in my book,
What do you think of David? Are you friends? Do you know him? What?
Yeah. Well, I followed him to Vancouver. David believes that the Bilderbergers and the people at Bohemian Grove and so on are actually 12-foot lizards, shape-shifting lizards.
Yes, reptilians.
Yeah. And I followed David. I went with David to Vancouver, where this powerful coalition of anti-racist groups like the Anti-Defamation League and the Canadian Jewish Congress were all convinced that when David Icke said 12-foot lizards, he was using code, and what he really meant was Jews. And David Icke was saying, no, I really do mean lizards, to which they were saying, well, that's code too. And they got David stopped in Canada. He would turn up at these book readings to find that they'd been mysteriously cancelled and so on. And I think what that story tells us is, yes, it's kind of crazy that David believes that 12-foot lizards rule the world, but it's also equally crazy to believe he's using code for Jews, and they must get him stopped at the airport and seized under hate crimes legislation and so on. And to me, that's a story of a kind of pressure cooker of paranoia on both sides. As people like David get crazier, so do the responses towards him. I'm kind of fond of David Icke. I had a big email exchange with him a couple of days ago, in fact. And in fact, it was David Icke who I asked first if he'd come with me to Bohemian Grove when I decided that I wanted to sneak in. And David declined, saying that that's where they turn themselves back into giant lizards. Which is why I ended up asking Alex Jones.
Well, we'll find out if they did turn into lizards next hour when we chat about this.
Yeah. But you asked earlier how I came to find the goat staring and, all the stuff that I write about in the Menasteric Goats. And that was really because of Uri Geller.
Really? I like Uri's been a great friend of this program. I like him a lot.
And I'm sorry that I called him Uri just then. It was terrible slippage.
Well, he says Uri, doesn't he?
Yeah, he says Uri. Yeah. Always says Uri. I'm very fond of Uri. I knew him about 10 years ago when he announced that he was that he knew where the Lost Ark of the Covenant was buried and he was going to dig it up. So I phoned him up and I said, "Can I come?" And we had a bunch of meetings back there, and it didn't really work out because he wanted me to organise the visas.
Did he ever go? I don't think he ever found that. What happened?
No, he never went. He never went. I think he thinks it's in Iraq or somewhere like that. He was going to drive there in his cutlery-covered limousine.
It might be. Some people believe it's in Ethiopia.
Yeah. Well, Uri definitely knew where it was. But he never went to dig it up. But after 9/11, I had lunch with him, and I said I was thinking about doing a story about the military's involvement in the paranormal, and Uri turned up at this restaurant with big dark glasses and his brother-in-law Shippy, and I said, "So Uri, tell me about your time with the CIA," and Uri said, "I never talk about it," which I thought was very strange because as you know, he kind of always talks about it. I said, "Uri, what's going on?"
What's wrong, yeah.
Yeah, so finally he took off his dark glasses and he said, "If you repeat what I'm about to tell you, I will deny it." And I said, "Okay." And Uri said, "This is no longer a history story. I have been reactivated. So I said, "Uri, who's reactivated you?" And he said, "I will tell you only one thing. The man who reactivated me is called Ron.